Hi, this is Jeff Curto, and welcome to episode number 178 of Camera Position, the podcast about the creative side of photography. So, have you ever made a lasagna without a recipe? I mean, maybe you'd followed one at some point, but this particular time you had most all of what you needed to make that great pan of noodly, cheesy goodness. But you had to figure out what you needed to do to make all the ingredients coalesce into something that your family or your friends would be happy to eat. Or have you ever had to navigate to a place that you went to a long time ago, but this time you have to do it without directions or without the help of a navigation system? You might remember some bits and pieces of where it was and what things looked like and the names of the streets, perhaps, but this time you have to make up a solution as to how to get there. Or personally, I do a few weeks of sailing every summer. I think of myself as somebody who enjoys sailing, but I'm not a particular expert at it. But each summer I get the boat out of the garage and I have to remember where everything goes and how it all works. And if everything is there, all is well. But if there are some parts that are missing, or I can't remember how every line works or where it goes, I have to come up with a solution so I can get the boat out onto the water. In those situations where you have some previous knowledge, but you have to figure out a new solution to a new and potentially complex problem, how do you do it? Well, I'm going to submit that how you do it is using creativity. Out of all the questions I get from students in my classrooms and my workshops and people out there who listen to the podcasts and people out there in the general world who send me emails and so forth and so on, the one that I get the most often is, how can I be more creative? How can I learn to be creative? And a lot of the time, I answer those people by saying, well, you already are creative. When you face something you think you can't possibly do, and then you go ahead and do it anyway, creativity is the tool that you use. In a sense, creativity is a way to make sense of whatever you encounter. By figuring out what to do in a situation you've not encountered before, and then going ahead and doing it, you're being actively creative, making up a solution based on what you already know and combining it with what you think you might need to use to get whatever it is done. That kind of experience where you do something you've not done before blends what you already knew with new information that you confront in the here and now. But here's where the interesting part comes in, at least interesting to me. It's not just that you're blending old information with new, but it's also that you're reaching back farther in your experience to understand how you know what you know. When you learn to make that lasagna or navigate to that once known location, or in my case, figure out how to put my sailboat back together, when you learned that stuff to begin with, you had a reason for learning it. And you had a history of how you learned that stuff. You remember the people you were with or who was showing you how to accomplish that task. There may have been things you were reading at the time or things or places that you were near or around. Some of them may have been about the set of things that you were learning, and some of them may not have been, but they all add up to what it is that you know and how you came to know them. So creativity is a lot more than rearranging the things you know. It's how you came to know those things. When you put those things together, your previous knowledge and your new take on how to get to a new place, you begin to make new ideas. What you're doing is synthesizing what you're learning now, what you knew before, and how you came to know the things that you have in your memory. Inventive ideas come from recontextualizing the past, creating new experiences out of the combination of things you've always known and the things you're encountering now. The new context allows you to think of new ways to apply the new information and the old information to make that new path. So when you think you're not being creative, think of how you actually are creative every day in myriad small ways and begin to apply that everyday creativity to the creative world of producing artwork that's meaningful to you? Well, here where I live, it was raining earlier, but the sun is struggling to come out now. There's some big angry clouds mixed in with the blue sky. So I'm going to go grab a camera and go out and make some photographs and try to apply that everyday creativity. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next episode of Camera Position, the podcast about the creative side of photography.